Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that took me far too long to understand, something that cost me time, energy, peace of mind, and even some relationships. You see, I spent years, decades even, chasing money. I chased it like a man running after a moving train, thinking that if I could just grab hold of it, if I could just catch that one big break, I'd finally have what I was looking for: security, joy, admiration, peace. I thought money was the answer to every question I didn't want to face. I believed that if I got rich, all the other parts of life would magically fix themselves. But here's the plot twist no one told me. Money is not the goal. It's not the destination. It's the result, the outcome of becoming a certain kind of person. And when you make the result your goal without becoming that person, you don't just fail to find money, you lose your direction. I chased money the way a thirsty man chases a mirage in the desert. Always just out of reach, always promising more than it delivered. I was running faster, working harder, burning out quicker, but never arriving. Oh sure, I'd catch a little here, a deal there, a windfall now and then, but it never stuck. It slipped through my fingers like sand. I was always back to zero, wondering what I was doing wrong. True? I was focusing on the wrong thing. I was obsessed with the fruits of wealth, but I never planted the tree. I didn't understand the soil it grows in: mindset, value, service, character. I was picking at the surface, hoping to strike gold without ever digging deep. I was looking for shortcuts to a process that demands roots. If you don't build those roots, anything you catch will slip away. The fruits rot fast if you never planted the tree of value. Then came the conversation that shifted everything. My mentor, Mr. Shelf, a man whose wisdom still echoes in my life to this day, pulled me aside during one of those discouraging seasons. He looked me in the eye and said something I will never forget: "Jim, don't become a millionaire for the money. Become a millionaire for the person you'll have to become to earn it." I was stunned. You see, I'd been focused on dollars. But he was talking about transformation. He was pointing to the real treasure, not the money, but the maturity. Not the income, but the internal growth. That sentence forced me to reevaluate everything I thought I knew. It meant that the journey itself, the person I would need to evolve into, disciplined, focused, wise, resourceful, valuable, was the true reward. And once I understood that, I stopped looking for fast cash and started looking in the mirror. That's where the real wealth-building process begins. You see, back then, I thought hard work alone would be enough. I believed that if I just clocked more hours, stayed later than everyone else, skipped breaks, and pushed myself to the limit, success would have no choice but to knock on my door. But Mr. Schoaf helped me see the flaw in that thinking. I was working harder, yes, but I wasn't working smarter. I was mistaking effort for effectiveness. I was measuring my success by how tired I felt, not by the value I was delivering. I was spinning my wheels. Active, yes, but not impactful. And there's a big difference between being busy and being valuable. One earns sympathy, the other earns wealth. I had to learn how to trade value, not time. You don't get paid for how long you work. You get paid for how well you solve problems. That was a rude awakening, but one I desperately needed. Here's the golden truth I eventually uncovered. Money doesn't respond to noise. It doesn't respond to effort alone. It responds to value. And value is something you build, not something you chase. It's not about how fast you're moving. It's about what you're becoming while you move. I had to internalize the fact that wealth flows to those who solve meaningful problems, to those who build themselves into people of use and excellence. It doesn't flow to the loudest or the busiest. It flows to the most valuable. And when I looked around at those who had the kind of success I admired, I realized that they weren't running themselves into the ground. They were positioning themselves differently. They were magnets, not hunters. They were doing deep work on themselves, and the rewards followed. When I stopped being busy and started being valuable, my entire trajectory shifted from survival to significance. That's when I had to make the shift from asking low-level questions like, how can I make more money, to asking transformational questions like, how can I become more valuable? You see, the former leads you to desperation, the latter to elevation. Money isn't the target, value is. And the minute you pivot your focus to becoming the kind of person who creates solutions, who inspires trust, who builds relationships, who brings clarity in chaos, you'll find that money starts to chase you. I realized that I had been knocking on doors instead of building something worth visiting. You attract wealth by who you are, not what you want. And this shift in questioning, this mental pivot, is what unlocks abundance. If you're not growing in value, you're stuck. If you're not evolving, you're dissolving. Everything changes when you stop asking what you can get and start asking who you can become. Let me be clear. You do not get rich by chasing riches. You get rich by chasing purpose, by chasing excellence, by chasing problems that need solving. Every dollar in your bank account is just a certificate of value delivered to someone else. Want more certificates? Solve more problems. That's the secret. People don't pay you because you want money. They pay you because you make their lives better in some way. That means you have to build skills, real skills, in-demand skills. You have to be a person people can count on, someone they can't imagine living without. When you show up with integrity, with answers, with excellence, money follows. Not always fast, but always faithfully. You don't have to shout. You don't have to sell your soul. Just become a person of extraordinary value. Never beg for opportunity again. Opportunity will knock, and this time you'll be ready to answer. I learned to stop pursuing money and start attracting it. And friends, that one change unlocked everything. Because attraction is magnetic. It draws things to you. It's natural. Pursuit, on the other hand, is tiring. It wears you out. And the irony is, the more desperate you are, the less money wants to come near you. Think about nature. The bee doesn't chase the flower. The flower simply becomes so rich in color, so fragrant, so irresistible, that the bee has no choice but to come. That's what I wanted to be. I didn't want to beg for attention or chase leads. I wanted to become the kind of man whose very presence added value. When you do that, money doesn't just visit, it moves in. That's the power of personal gravity. The key is to cultivate the traits, the mindset, the expertise, and the presence that make you indispensable. Then the world will come. I became obsessed, not with income, but with personal growth. I dove into books, seminars, ideas. I started asking better questions. How do the rich think differently? How do leaders communicate? How do problem solvers position themselves? I stopped blaming the economy, my past, or my luck, and started studying excellence. That's when the breakthroughs came. Slowly, consistently, money began to appear, not from chasing, but from becoming. And not just money, respect, influence, peace of mind. Because when you grow yourself, you expand your capacity to serve others. And service is where wealth is born. Not just financial wealth, but relational wealth, emotional wealth, spiritual wealth. All of it comes from who you're becoming. That's why your income will rarely exceed your personal development, because your outer world is always a reflection of your inner world. And the more I expanded inwardly, the more abundance showed up outwardly. Money is not evil. Let's clear that up right now. Money is not the problem, and it's not the solution either. It's a mirror. It reflects who you are and how you show up. It reflects the problems you've solved, the people you've helped, the value you've delivered. If your bank account is empty, don't look at the market. Look in the mirror. The mirror doesn't lie. It shows you what level you're playing at. It reveals whether you're growing, stagnating, or declining. And here's the hard part. The mirror won't change until you do. It's a brutal, honest, sacred truth. So if you don't like what you see in your finances, upgrade what you see in your habits, your beliefs, your skill sets. Because when you grow yourself, the reflection changes. That's the law. Money is a mirror. And the more you become, the more it reveals how far you've come. I stopped chasing money when I finally understood that money makes a terrible master, but a wonderful servant. You see, when money becomes your master, it will drive you like a taskmaster with a whip. It'll have you waking up in anxiety, making decisions out of fear, compromising your values, stepping over people, sacrificing your health, and forgetting who you are. When money is in control, you lose yourself. You become reactive instead of intentional, but the moment you take back the reins, when you master yourself, that's when money becomes your servant. It becomes a tool in your hand, not a chain around your neck. It helps you rather than haunts you. It starts working for you through investments, through opportunities, through systems, because you've become the kind of person who knows what to do with it. Money is a multiplier. If you're chaotic, it multiplies chaos. But if you're wise, it multiplies freedom. The key is mastery, not of money, but of you. Too many people want to get rich without becoming wise. They want the reward without the refinement. They want the prize without the process. But life doesn't hand out trophies to those who didn't run the race. We live in a world obsessed with shortcuts, get-rich-quick schemes, viral fame, fast success. But let me tell you something, shortcuts often cut your potential short. If you skip the process, you skip the person you're supposed to become through it. People want harvest without sowing, but there is no such thing. The farmer can pray all day long, but unless he plants the seed, he'll have no crop. Wealth is the result of compounded discipline, delayed gratification, consistent growth, and contribution over time. There's no elevator to success. You've got to take the stairs. And every step builds the strength you need to hold the weight of the wealth you're asking for. Don't cheat the process. It's where the real riches live. Everything changed for me when I stopped focusing on what I could get and started focusing on what I could give. I shifted my mindset from earning to educating, from receiving to serving. And suddenly, the universe opened up. You see, people aren't looking to hand you money. They're looking for someone who can make a difference in their life. If you can become that person, the money takes care of itself. I realized I wasn't here just to make a living. I was here to make an impact. An impact always pays better than income alone. When you focus on contribution instead of collection, you unlock levels of success that most people will never reach. Not because you were lucky, but because you made yourself indispensable. And let me tell you, people are always willing to pay for solutions. They invest in those who bring peace, clarity, excellence, wisdom. Be that person, and your value will write your paycheck. Let me put it plainly. Money is a byproduct of who you are, what you've mastered, and how well you contribute. If you want more money, you don't chase it directly. You chase the qualities that produce it. Character, because integrity builds trust, and trust is the foundation of all business. Competence, because skill turns effort into excellence, and excellence gets rewarded. And contribution, because the world rewards those who solve real problems, not those who sit and wish. When you align those three, character, competence, and contribution, money shows up as the fruit of your internal tree. But if even one of those roots is weak, the fruit will be small, inconsistent, or rotten. The world may pay you temporarily for charm or cleverness, but it will keep paying you for character, competence, and consistent contribution. So work on the inside. Build that foundation. Because money doesn't grow from hope. It grows from who you are when no one is watching. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not anti-money. Not at all. In fact, I believe you should want it. Want it to build, to bless, to grow, to invest. Want it so you can free up your time, help your family, support causes that matter, and build a life of meaning. Use it. Multiply it. Be a master of it. But never worship it. Because the moment you start treating money like a god, it demands sacrifices you were never meant to make. It'll have you chasing applause instead of purpose. It'll have you performing instead of living. I've seen people with millions who are miserable because they forgot that money is a tool, not a trophy. And if you make money the destination instead of the vehicle, you'll spend your life running in circles, exhausted and empty. So yes, pursue excellence, pursue growth, but let money be a byproduct, not the purpose. Because the man who chases money will always be tired, but the man who attracts it through purpose will always be fulfilled. There's a difference between making a living and making a life. I was making a living but living on empty. It's only when I aligned my values with my value that I felt full, complete, and useful. Money came later, but fulfillment came first. I want you to think about this. If you stopped chasing money today and started chasing wisdom, excellence, and purpose, where would you be 1 year from now? What would you know? Who would you become? That's the real wealth. Money has no personality. It only magnifies yours. So if you're selfish, you'll be more selfish. If you're generous, you'll become even more generous. It doesn't change you. It reveals you. So become the person worth magnifying. I stopped chasing money because I realized I was chasing an illusion. And in doing so, I was neglecting the real treasure, my growth, my mindset, my relationships, my habits. And wouldn't you know it, those are the things money can't buy, but the things that end up attracting all the money you'll ever need. If you want money, become irreplaceable, become excellent, show up when others quit. Read when others sleep, serve when others complain. The market doesn't reward the lazy, it rewards the valuable. Let me leave you with this. Money is like a shadow. It follows you when you walk toward the light. But run after the shadow and you'll never catch it. The light is growth, the light is service, the light is wisdom. Walk in that direction and you'll never have to chase again. So yes, I stopped chasing money. I started chasing mastery. And wouldn't you know it, money came chasing me. That's what I learned. That's what I lived. And I hope today you start walking that path too, because you're capable, you're worthy. And when you grow into the person you're meant to become, money is the least of what you'll attract.